Call for the regular meeting of the Clinton Hospital Authority, the Recreational Authority, the Airport Authority, Public Works Authority, the Solid Waste Authority, and the Clinton Industrial Authority. And Dan Day, would you lead us in word of prayer?
Yes, let us pray. May the Lord bless our community, leadership, and citizens. May the Lord make His face shine upon our businesses and economic development. And may the Lord grant the city of Clinton with prosperity in this new year. We thank you, Father, for all that you have done for us in the past. And we look forward to the new year that is offered to us here in the city of Clinton. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen. Councilman Stewart, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
We join in the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome, everyone. You received your consent agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion.
Second.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
Trustee Dowdell?
Yes.
Trustee McComas?
Yes.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
And Chairman?
Yes. We have no action items. Any trustee remarks, any of these particular authorities? Comments? Mark?
No, sir.
Okay. Our motion to adjourn?
Second.
Trustee Jones?
Yes.
Trustee Dowdell?
Yes.
Trustee McComas?
Yes.
Trustee Stewart?
Yes.
And Chairman?
Yes. Call to order the regular meeting of the Clinton City Council. You have received your consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Councilman Dowdell?
Yes.
Councilman Jones?
Yes.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
Councilman McComas?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Okay. Action items for, and we'll take an A first, and it would be consider appointment to the Midwestern Oklahoma Industrial Foundation.
Lisa. That is reappointing Chris Jones to another term. I believe his term expires in like January 2020, and Chris has consented to serve again at the Players Council that will take council appointment.
Make a motion, we appoint Chris Jones and retain him on that. Vice Mayor Mendez? Wow. Royalty. I'll second that.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
Councilman McComas?
Yes.
Councilman Dowdell?
Yes.
Councilman Jones? And Mayor?
Yes. A little drama. Okay. Consider take action on adjourning to an executive session for the purpose of discussing confidential communications between the public body and its attorney concerning a pending investigation, claim, or action pursuant to 25 OSSS 307B4. Do I hear that motion?
Make the motion.
Second.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
Councilman Dowdell?
Yes.
Councilman McComas?
Yes.
Councilman Jones?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. I'll leave you with. Do I hear a motion to return to regular session?
So moved. Second.
Councilman McComas?
Yes.
Councilman Dowdell?
Yes.
Councilman Jones?
Yes.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. Any further discussion on the matter?
I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve the settlement agreement regarding Custer County case number CB 19-78.
Second.
Discussion?
Councilman Jones?
Yes.
Councilman Dowdell?
Yes.
Councilman McComas?
Yes.
Councilman Stewart?
Yes.
And Mayor?
Yes. All right. Action item C, consider, wait a minute. We're about out of stuff. C. Any trustee comments? Anything else in council? Mark?
After multiple observations, I had a traffic light technician out here, and we went through each set of stoplights. We did change some of the timing, which should facilitate the flow of traffic. Myself and 2 other employees were given a tour of the VA facility. It's not completely done yet. Their estimate that they're going to turn it over to the VA on January the 17th. Now, that means the VA is going to come in with their fine-tooth comb, and it's not going to be done yet, but they'll be enclosed really nice inside. They don't have all the desks and computers in place, but it really is a nice building, something to be proud of. At this time, I'm going to ask John Bannon with Infomark to come. I'm going to let John tell you what he does for Infomark. John was here on December 31st and January 1st addressing the water situation in Clinton, Oklahoma. Of course, John has been involved with it before that time, but I thought I would ask John to come up and kind of present us on, this is how we got here. How you gonna get us out?
Okay. Once again, I'm John Bannon with Infomark. I'm the project director for Infomark here in Oklahoma. So my day job is I operate all the wastewater treatment facilities for Oklahoma City. And I live in Mustang, and I have management oversight over the other 5 locations here, which, of course, Clinton is one of them. So, I mean, it's no surprise to anybody that there's been a taste and odor issue here that goes back all the way into October. Is what we have is the first complaint, if you will, that we had through DEQ. And, before addressing anything, we got to find out what the problem is. Where's the problem? Where's the source? Which we identified as, initially in October was lake turnover in October. And the lake turnover, created a grass, earthy, musty, type odors. And right on the heels of that, we moved right into an algae bloom in December timeframe. The lake turned green, and it was, very evident of the algae bloom that occurred. Now, algae blooms in this time of year are very unusual from the standpoint of we typically see them in spring, more weather related. If you look at the unseasonably warm December we had, the conditions were right for the algae to bloom in December, which is what we ended up having. As that algae bloom died off, and I'll talk about what we did, during some of these, but, first we always want to look at what was the source so that we're attacking the right problem. And as the algae bloom in Clinton Lake was subsiding, there was an algae bloom that started in Foss Lake, right on the heels of that. So all of these items were dominoes that lined up to create this lengthy taste and odor challenge that we've been faced with here. So, what did we do and what did we see? Well, immediately taking a look at the source water and increasing monitoring the distribution system. Where are the odors and tastes coming from? Are they isolated in any ways? Things of that nature to help us, focus on the problem. We added 2 additional treatment chemicals to the treatment plant during the time frame. The treatment plant has a design to treat certain taste and odor to a certain limit, and then with the significant algae bloom, we added 2 additional treatment chemicals to assist with the treatment at the plant. In addition, we dialed back the amount of water we were taking from Lake Clinton, okay, and relied more on Foss water and water from Canute, which did not have those taste and odor problems at that time. Now, we can't completely shut off the lake because of an issue that is there with the Canute water and is high in nitrates. So we can't completely shut off the lake. We have to blend the 2 together to keep water coming. So that was part of the problem is we had taste and odor. We knew there was an algae bloom. We knew there was turnover in the lake, but we couldn't just not use that water source to be able to take that. So, that was one of the compounding problems, that we had. That algae bloom, in Clinton Lake lasted all the way through approximately sometime between the 13th to the 29th of December. So that bloom was there for quite a while. And then you say, well, the bloom's gone, that was December. Here we are, the 7th of January, why we still have some lingering taste and odor. And that has to do with the length of time and the amount of water in the system. It takes 3 days to get the water just from Lake Clinton to get into the storage tanks. The storage tanks in the system have about another 3 full days of storage, and you have days of water in the distribution system and all the pipes that you have throughout the entire city. So from the end of the blooms, it takes 9 or 10 days to completely flush that water out and remove that once we have good water moving into the system. And that's where we are today, is the number of calls, or I don't really even like to call them complaints, I would rather consider them concerns, from the community, that those calls are subsiding. And, we're past that problem. And, in this time too, so what else did we do? We ran the RO plant for 16 days in the month of December. So the RO plant supplemented the flushing that we were doing and adding good water into the system by utilizing the RO plant. So that was utilized during this time of need, that we put that water into the system. So can this happen again? What would we do again in the future? Yes, it can happen again in the future. Corrective actions to me are very important. And one of the things looking forward that we're preparing to do is increase the source water monitoring. Once the lake turns green, we know we have an algae bloom. But what conditions are there in the 3, 5, or 10 days before the lake turns green? Can we get ahead of it in order to treat with different chemicals quicker? One of the things that we can do, and I'm preparing a presentation and a recommendation to bring before Mark, is a piece of equipment that can be purchased at the surface water plant that will analyze the source water, and actually it's online, so it instantly is telling you the condition of the lake water, which will potentially allow us to react even before we see the water turn green. None of the current testing and things that are in place at the plant, nor required by DEQ, have to do with taste and odor, if you will. So, this piece of equipment is one of our recommendations, to be able to get ahead of things and to be proactive instead of reactive. And the last thing that we're going to do is increase the source water and community monitoring. One of the things that occurred in this entire event, and looking at the entire event, is there were customer concerns that went to DEQ. There were customer concerns that probably went to your phones. There were customer concerns that went to the city staff, and there were concerns that came to the plant. In this event, we need to bring all this together and look at all of that together so that we can have a more focused response when these kind of events happen. And so one of the things that we're going to do is work with Mark and work with city staff on a more comprehensive collaborative response to what's happening. Also, in one of those things, typically with taste and odor, is you potentially take a look at places in the system where you can rely on people to maybe give you feedback. Some place like, let's say, McDonald's, where there's somebody there that notices taste and odor at one level, and there might be another employee there that doesn't. But you build a relationship with them so that if they start to sense that taste and odor, because it's all objectionable, we all taste and smell differently, right? So they notify us potentially. There might be other places like Pedro's that, was one of the worst hit or longest lasting places, in the system. We want to be able to get feedback from them to respond to these changes in taste and odor for what's going on. So, that's from it being the source to what we did during this time period. And of course there's a million details in between the last 6 to 8 weeks of things that were done as well that, I can entertain questions and things of that nature.
You mentioned that increase the source water monitoring. So how often were we doing it? And then how often are we going to increase
Correct.
it to? I guess my question.
Sure. Monthly, we analyze for what is called TOC, or organic compounds in the water. That's what causes taste and odor. Monthly is the current frequency for that test. And so that's the only analytical test that is made. The other one is observations. And recording the observations is something that we're going to increase. So having an operator take an observation of the lake and take a look at its color, its how much the water is churning at the top, and potentially look for different patterns in the water that could potentially be indicators of a problem that is coming. And then recording that information so that we can look for trends.
So this isn't something you can dip in the water and pull it out and it's going to say.
Correct. No, and the analyzer that I'm talking about, the online analyzer, water continually flows through it, is a $40,000 piece of equipment. It's not, a cheap piece of equipment, but the value is extremely worth it because it analyzes that water in real time and to very low levels. So you get an indication that you need to do something as quick as you possibly can, and that's the only analysis available.
So if we do it once a month, one of our employees, I'm assuming, does that?
Correct.
And how do they go about doing that?
The water sample was taken and then sent to a third-party lab.
And how long does it, ballpark, how long does it take to get it back? And what's the cost of
I would have to get back and check and get back with you on that. Typically, getting the results back, about a week as far as the cost, I'd have to look again. So no matter what, we're waiting for a week between we dip a sample and look at a number.
it? I was just thinking of the dollars and cents
We're
behind
just
it.
not quick enough. But in 5 days' time, we're half.
We're 6.
And you wouldn't test again for maybe 3 or 4 weeks,
Right.
next month.
So
And
is there an operator on site daily? Is there somebody out at that plant every day?
yes, yes there is.
Is it too much to ask to have them take a drink of water every day?
No, it's not, and that is actually when I talk about like enhanced or additional monitoring, that's exactly what it is. The challenge that you can get into with just relying on the operators at that plant to do that is taking that drink of water every single day. You assume a change goes, hey, there's a change, or the opposite effect is they're so used to it, they don't see small changes over time, whereas potentially broad spectrum, people, but taste and odor is odor monitoring in the public. People actually get paid to sit in a booth and smell stuff,
Well, I haven't, I don't know about you guys, I didn't do any calls of concern. I got lots of calls of complaint. So like 2.5 months we're into this. And I was out to eat with some friends from out of town last week, and their 9-year-old daughter refused to drink the water. 2.5 months is, to me, I can't sugarcoat it, it's not acceptable. So what you're saying sounds good, I don't understand it enough, but when does all this stuff start? When do all these new procedures start? When do they get finalized? I don't want this to happen again. It's embarrassing to be 100% honest.
Some of them are already in place,
Okay.
and they are, as soon as we get the new procedures in place, it's ongoing. I would say, outside of purchasing of the equipment, the procedures of what we're doing, some of them are going to be done by this week. But as far as the enhanced monitoring, to be able to notice these small changes before they happen and before we get a bloom, the technology is not in place at the plants currently to be able to get those small changes before we get into a lake effect change like that.
Is
That
there
technology,
any reason,
go ahead.
is there any reason why Clinton was the only one that suffered from the algae bloom that drew water out of False Lake? I know people that draw water out of False Lake from Butler and from Hammond, and none of them ever complained about the odor or the taste of the water. You're saying we switched over to False Lake periodically during this? I never noticed a difference in the stench and the taste of the bad water that we had. And I have some of my constituents today still in Lincoln Edition refused to drink the water and use it anyway because it smells so bad and tastes so bad. The problem hadn't gone away. I mean, we still have it.
And that somewhat speaks to the issue we're talking about, the source water, and when we say there wasn't anything from Foss Lake, or yes, there are other communities that don't have that, I can't speak to those communities. We blend 4 different sources of water here, and the source water of the algae bloom, still, the small amount, even though it's a small amount, it still taints all of the other water that is there. It'd be like filling up the bathtub and putting 1 drop of red dye in there, versus 50 drops of red dye. Even the smallest 1 drop in that bathtub, you'll still see some pink in there. And it's going to taint the water, and you're going to notice the taste and odor.
This problem was primarily a Clinton Lake issue.
Correct.
Foss was not a part of our diagram here until we finally got some Foss water coming in here, and so it was primarily Clinton Lake.
Correct. The primary source of taste and odor on this 100% was there to that. The Foss algae bloom did not occur until the 29th. From the 14th to the 29th, you can take a look, and we've got pictures of Foss Lake is as green as the Emerald Sea. So again, that compounded the problem for what we had.
That monitoring device you're talking about, how often does it monitor? I mean,
It's continuous.
Okay.
Yep, it is a online continuous monitoring with a continuous readout.
And it says, hey, you've got a problem,
We would take that number against a baseline of what's good, bad, or ugly, and based on that reading, would put corrective actions in place, such as we see the levels go to here, and maybe we add this one chemical. The levels go to here, maybe we change another thing. And, potentially the levels go to the worst condition. And the organic compounds in the lake, but this time we saw 3 times the normal levels, that were historical levels in the lake were in December.
So if we saw these huge anomalies of what we're not used to, why did we not immediately go to the RO plant if we weren't seeing results in treating the water that we had?
The RO plant has been commissioned mechanically and is ready for operation too, and was ready for operation as of October 30th for the last commissioning steps that were there on October 30th. Through the month of November, we're working with DEQ to still get the final commissioning report back and approval from DEQ that says all requirements have been met to put the water into the distribution system. That was officially received on the 13th of December. So from that point, we've been working to, take a look at the enhancements, the alarming, and the operational controls. The plant is mechanically sound and mechanically can produce water and put water into there. But to be able to report the data and the information the way that it needs to go to DEQ every month was the final step of operations to be able to put water into the distribution system.
Is it still blending? Are you still blending a third of the water still coming from the RO plant?
No, currently the RO plant is off and was turned off on the 30th of December due to a concern with the chlorine feed system. Was when the plant was not manned, the plant was not turning off when the chlorine levels reached unacceptable levels. So that automated control was not functioning, properly to shut the plant off. So when an operator wasn't there, it potentially could put water that did not meet standards into the system.
So has that been fixed?
Not yet. It's not been corrected yet.
So the RO plant is in a position when it's functioning properly to distribute groundwater.
Correct.
And that groundwater would be void of any algae issues, right?
That is correct. As well as the Canute water. The Canute water is also a groundwater source, so the Canute water doesn't have the algae for taste and odor, but the Canute has a nitrate issue that has to be blended with the surface water from Lake Clinton to meet an acceptable level.
So how long before that's running?
The RO plant?
Yeah, how long before
We've been in contact with the integrator who programmed the alarms and the levels, and he will not be able to respond for approximately a week. He's off-site, out of state, and this is not something that he can do remotely. We've seen if he can do that. So we have 2 other potential sources, but at this point, the plant still is, the integrator still has a lot of the keys in how to fix things in the system.
So what
When I
you're
talk about an
saying,
integrator, what I mean is there's software that runs all the equipment, and then the integrator basically tells the software what to do with the equipment. How the equipment and the software work together is what this person does.
So we have a city that doesn't have anybody capable of operating, so we hire you. And then we have you, that you're not capable of taking care of the integrated part of it, and we have to get another third party involved in this thing to make that thing out there work.
No, you've always had this person. Actually, they've been along through the
No, no, no,
entire
no, no.
process.
We don't. You just said he's out, he's off-site,
So, correct.
unavailable. So that's a third party. Is he one of your employees?
No, he's not.
Who do we go to Supreme Court next? I mean, how high up the ladder are we gonna have to go in different agencies to make that thing work properly?
you're just saying that this is like, though, this part that has failed, is a part of the original package that was built by the Burns McDonnell and by all the people that involved themselves in the original package. That's where we have to go for warranty, in essence. Is that what you're saying? I mean, this piece that's not working is an original part that's not working.
That is our understanding, is that, the automation of the plant is made so that it monitors the chlorine that is being put into the water. There's a certain level that it has to meet before it goes to the distribution system. There's an instrument that we have verified, the instrument that is measuring the chlorine is working properly. That is working fine, we verified it against, a lab result, and that piece of equipment is working. It is not communicating, if you will, with what we call the SCADA system, which is the, pictures of all the pipes and pumps and what runs. That piece of instrument is not communicating to the system, or if it is communicating to the system, it's not triggering the alarm that calls an operator or shuts a pump down so that untreated water, if you will, doesn't go to the system.
Well, so the point is though, Bob, I think on this thing, if I'm understanding, because it works its way out in FOSS, there's just so many things that the local director at FOSS and all the guys that work out there can actually work on it. And eventually, they have to call in a specialist to work on a specific part. And you're saying this is a specific part that requires someone other than Infomark or someone with the city of Clinton that has the expertise to work on it.
Now, we're plant operators, not computer programmers. This starts to get into computer programming level of technical.
Is this one of a kind, this RO plant, is it one of a kind compared to your other 5 or 4, however many?
We operate 9, but no, it's the type of system's a green sand filter with RO membranes and skids. By no means is it, it's beautiful. It's unique in itself. Every plant has their own characteristics, just like children have their own characteristics. But it is nothing that is out of the ordinary, unusual, specific, or special from a technical standpoint to operate the plant.
Well, and I think kind of where he was coming from, and to hear that there is one piece of equipment or whatever in that plant, and there's one guy that we can talk to, and we will probably be able to talk to him for a week. I just want you to kind of talk about that a little bit to help me understand that. And I know it's not you, I'm just curious.
No,
I know.
and what it is, that's the original integrator who built this system. That's the first stop. There are 2 other people. We do have internal resources within Infomark, but again, he wasn't the one who programmed the code and, may or may not be able to help. There are other third-party consultants that I work with all the time that will also be reached out to correct this problem. Just today, when you ask where we're at today, that's where we're at as far as contacting